The original I Know What You Did Last Summer is a solid film from the 90s that perfectly encapsulates that era, and along with Kevin Williamson's writing, the movie is good. It excels with such a simple premise, and contained to that one movie, it's a tight script. You have memorable characters, easy to maybe not like but connect with at least, because everyone is flawed and struggles with their morality. You have iconic sequences like Helen's fight for survival, or Barry's car chase, or who could forget Jennifer's statement piece.
What are you waiting for, huh? What are you waiting for?
Jennifer Kane Robinson's version is basically a beat-for-beat copy of the original, where we follow a group of friends accidentally causing a car accident that leads to the death of an innocent man, and so the friends make it a pact to keep it a secret rather than face the consequences. But 1 year later, the past comes back to haunt them one at a time. Except that's not really the premise. I'm baffled by the fact that this movie is basically the original, but it didn't understand the core essence of the original. In the original, the characters actually do kill the person, or presumably think that for like 95% of the runtime. So that merits the characters feeling that weight of guilt, but in this requel, they didn't kill the guy. Yes, they were idiots for being in the middle of a highway, but it's not like they forced him over the railing, or they purposefully led him towards the edge. It's an entirely different thing. I also don't like how they skimmed over the death. Like, it truly was not their fault, and they didn't make the situation any worse in this case, because they didn't even drown him like they did in the original. I'm not saying there's no guilt or partial blame, but it's adjacent at best. The connection is so tenuous, especially when compared to the original. It's a very frustrating element because it's the inciting incident, in other words, the crux of the movie. Luckily, the movie doesn't bother to allow the characters to feel or explore the trauma of that experience because it's just not on the same level. If the original didn't give the characters enough time to explore their traumas, this one was even worse. Also, I'm not a fan of this trend of naming a sequel the same title as the original. I love Friday from 2009 and I love Halloween 2018, but it's so annoying to see the same title multiple times. There's literally every other reason in each movie to have continuity or show its relevancy, but I always found that so lazy. It's like the studio's trying to convince you that it's to seem prideful and clever.
No! It's just dumb!
One of the most jarring things about movies like this is that it's clearly geared to appeal to Gen Z audiences, with the constant slang and terms used throughout the film. Yes, it's titled so OG audiences can show their love, but it's also trying to reel in new audiences as well. But because of how 90s the original film is, the stark change in language gave me flashbacks to like Psycho 98, where the dialogue felt so forced, it felt wrong and unnatural. So saying terms like a claircognizant empath or you seem pretty beta, and saying things like what the fuck bro after getting shot with like a spear gun is not a realistic reaction. It just feels so bizarre and inauthentic because I really don't think people talk like that. And I get it, part of the charm is that campiness since it's clearly not trying to take itself seriously, but it just feels disingenuous and manufactured. It just feels like it was written by somebody who thinks they know what younger audiences sound like. There's just no soul in a movie like this.
Something's missing.
What about the soul?
Jennifer Kane Robinson's style of storytelling really isn't my thing. Out of her work, I've only seen Thor: Love and Thunder, which... yikes, that was a miss. To be fair, the movie does have a theme about the effects of trauma and attempts to have a cute message about not running away and dealing with it head on. And if you take a social work class or something in that vein, you'll learn about The Body Keeps the Score, which is referenced in the book and is a good book about how trauma impacts the body. So credit to the movie for doing its research on that at least. The most important part about slasher films are of course the kills and the sequences that are meant to create suspense. And in that regard, the movie was okay. I'll say that I liked that there was a healthy amount of chase sequences, and sometimes characters made it, sometimes characters didn't. Teddy's dance with the fisherman was probably the most fun sequence of the film, and it leads to a good little reveal, though putting up see-through barriers was just silly, but whatever. I'll also say while most kills were off-screen, which is always a bummer, there was at least one or two that were pretty decent, not enough to make your skin crawl, but you can kinda feel the pain of the characters. The scares were awful though. It's filled with cheap jump scares, characters will just blip into frame without making any noise. In terms of the whodunit element, the movie does try and keep you guessing, but I think it gives itself away one too many times. An intense glare, a lack of presence, a lack of motivation to even stay with the group made it just too clear who it was gonna be. The characters themselves were not great. Ava as the lead was just standard, nothing stand out about her, and really there's no real defining characteristics about any of the characters. Milo and Stevie were so bland, although for what it's worth, I will say I did like that line that Stevie had when they went to go visit Teddy, as she was the only one that offered him help, which was in theme. I think the characters that are both the best and the worst of the film are Danica and Teddy. Teddy having that condescending look over everyone, but also being funny and somehow suave was interesting. And Madeline Klein as Danica is probably the most divisive character for sure. So much of the movie hinges on her. This movie so desperately wants her to be the Helen of this movie. I know this because the movie adores Helen. It references her so many times, to the point that we get a cute little cameo from Sarah Michelle Gellar. The legacy characters aren't even really that problematic because of how lame the main characters are. Like, they feel like they don't belong in this story, but honestly the main characters don't either. The film is heavily reliant on nostalgia and callbacks to other entries, to the point that we literally go back to Helen's family store and recreate the same sequence. Also, because of how stupid these characters are in comparison, there's never any sense of thrill or excitement. And slapped on the fact that the fisherman is basically Batman because he'll be on the ground 1 second and then he'll vanish the next. But all things considered, 95% of the journey, while bad, wasn't atrocious. It could have very easily been a passive Netflix original, but the ending of this movie took a giant dump on the franchise as a whole. It is character assassination and basically franchise assassination because it's canon. There's no beating around the bush. Rey's reveal is absolutely disgusting, and genuinely I think I lost all hope when they made Freddie Prinze Jr. say something along the lines of, "They tried to forget us and bury us, but I had to make sure they remembered us," because that's how you deal with trauma. When people point out the stigma of horror movies as having bad characters and bad writing, this is a perfect example of that. While the movie isn't unbearable, it's just not good, and the fact that the continuation of this story is teased is just unreal. But that's it for me. I'd appreciate a thumbs up, subscribe, and sincerely yours, Anthony.